nigga. So y'all can think I'm a.
Nah, bro.
That ain't fair, nigga.
Hey,
I'm on EBT, bro.
hey.
That's whack.
Kevin McCall's explosive outburst reignited long-buried drama with Chris Brown. But before the situation could cool off, Young Thug stepped into the mix, confronting Chris face to face. What started as a calm conversation quickly spiraled into a fiery argument. The leaked clip from that night shows just how wild things got. Let's break it down. The meltdown that rocked the industry. October 20th, 2025, will go down as the day R&B had one of its most heart-wrenching moments. At 40 years old, Kevin McCall sat down for what seemed like a regular podcast interview on Back on Fig. No one expected that nearly 3 hours later, the music world, the streets, and every corner of social media would be set ablaze. The curtain had finally been pulled back on one of hip-hop and R&B's most bitter feuds. Around 45 minutes into the show, as the host hyped up his past hits, something inside him just broke. Out of nowhere, he reached into his wallet and pulled out his EBT card, his government food assistance card, right there on camera. And in front of everyone, Kevin McCall completely broke down in tears.
Why the fuck?
You have a testimony.
Why the
tell your life.
get in on this?
I witnessed it.
He finna be in here and
Why
tell
the
the
fuck
homies
I got
what's
an
going
EBT card?
We
And
got
this is at
Hold on,
Breezy Bowl
cuz.
and made 90 whatever the million, and it say KKKKK Mac. Can I get 25,000 for them four songs I owe you, bro? I just want to leave, bro.
Leading up to who he is.
I'm
right
not
now.
even tripping though. I got an EBT card, my nigga. Like what the bro? I can't even get nothing, bro.
Man, it was raw, painful to watch, impossible to ignore. You could feel something real, whether it was empathy, discomfort, or a mix of both hitting at once. This was a man who helped craft some of the biggest records of the 2010s, records that made millions, that won Grammys, now struggling just to put food on the table. McCall didn't sugarcoat anything. He admitted he was $2,000 behind on monthly child support for his daughter Marley with ex-Eva Marcel and that he hadn't seen his kids in over 10 years. Through uncontrollable tears and trembling words, he confessed to having suicidal thoughts, and then turned his pain straight toward Chris Brown. "Give me the $25,000 you owe me for those 4 songs, bro." He said the real number could be closer to $3 million in unpaid royalties, blaming a shady CB contract for cutting him out of what he earned. The visual contrast hit hard. While Chris was touring the world on his breezy Bowl 20 run, grossing nearly $100 million performing hits McCall helped create, Kevin was using food stamps and hiding his face in grocery stores to dodge embarrassment. Just, wow.
It's
In my name.
Me and
Yeah, look,
Heather,
that'd be crazy.
look. Me and Heather went to the county building together. On my mama, together. We
Hey.
went to the county building together, bro.
The footage blew up instantly. No exaggeration. Within hours, it dominated Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The clip shared by @MixTarpez on Twitter alone pulled in over 9 million views. The internet split right down the middle. Some saw a broken artist who'd been chewed up and spit out by the music machine, a raw reminder of how cold the business can be. Others saw a man paying the price for his own mistakes, someone who'd burned every bridge, made reckless moves, and was now playing the victim card when reality caught up. But then, something totally unexpected happened. A figure with the clout, the cash, and the respect to bridge both sides entered the chat, Young Thug. Fresh out of lockup and looking to spread some love, Thugger posted on October 21st, 2025. Just one day after McCall's breakdown set the internet ablaze, writing, "Kevin McCall hit me, Mike __. I'll front you the $25,000 you need. I know CB would too, he's solid, just busy sometimes." It was a move that shocked everyone, a rare moment of compassion that instantly caught the culture's attention. First off, Young Thug wasn't just talking, he was offering to personally front the $25,000 Kevin McCall said he was owed. That's real money, not internet talk. Second, he did it out loud, in public, putting both McCall and Chris Brown in a spotlight where everyone could see the real energy. And third, maybe most important for the culture, he managed to stand up for Chris while still reaching out to McCall. That's walking a tightrope few could pull off. To see why this moment hit so hard, you've got to understand Thug and Chris's bond. These two go way back, real friendship, built through music and loyalty. During the 2020 lockdowns, when the world was stuck inside, they dropped Slime and B, a 13-track collab tape that lit the internet on fire. Their single Go Crazy hit No. 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went quadruple platinum. That's no small feat. But their connection ran deeper than music. When Thug got hit with RICO charges in May 2022 and spent over 2 years behind bars fighting for his freedom, Chris was one of the few who stood 10 toes down for him. He posted #FreeYSL, spoke on Thug in interviews with Genuine Love, and made sure people didn't forget about him.
Actually basically on a text message saying word. That's all they saying. Like it's one dude saying, yo, do this, and one dude is saying word. What do you feel about that?
So when Thug stepped in for McCall, it wasn't some clout move or a betrayal of Chris. It was him trying to bring peace, to show empathy to someone clearly spiraling while still holding his brother down. That's what being a real one looks like. When Thug said, "CB would give it to you too, bro. He's solid, just busy sometimes," he made it clear he wasn't picking sides. McCall responded quickly, showing love right back. "What's up, bro? Just seeing this, about to DM you now." For a second, it actually looked like there might be a chance to squash all this chaos. Thug, newly out of federal custody and clearly on a mission to give back, had already hosted a charity event for Atlanta kids that summer, proving he was moving with purpose. Extending a hand to McCall seemed like part of that growth. But if Thug's gesture was meant to cool things off, Chris Brown clearly didn't get that memo, or didn't care. On October 22, 2025, Chris hopped on Instagram stories with the shade meter maxed out, posting, "Remember this, you can't walk across a burnt bridge. And you know what's funnier than a troll? A broke one." Savage. That post was straight venom, icy, cutting, and made Chris's stance impossible to miss. There'd be no truce, no forgiveness, no cash, no nothing. That bridge wasn't just burned. It was nuked, and McCall was the one who lit the fuse. The internet went crazy again, and the fanbase split even harder. On Twitter, most people, about 70%, sided with Chris, backing him heavy. Folks kept bringing up that McCall had once threatened Chris's daughter, reminding everyone that he'd had multiple chances and fumbled every one. To them, his downfall was the result of his own choices. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. "Before you'll say Chris Brown being cold, remember, Kevin McCall threatened to kill him and his daughter, royalty." But others argue the opposite, that Chris's reaction was too harsh, that he didn't need to pile on a man clearly battling mental health struggles. They pointed out that McCall helped build some of Chris's biggest hits when he was on the come-up, and that kicking him while he's already on the ground wasn't the move. And Chris's response? To mock his struggle and clown his pockets for the whole internet to see. That hit a nerve. A lot of people pointed out how the music business has a long, ugly pattern of bleeding songwriters and producers dry, using their work to make millions while they end up with crumbs. They argued that no matter how erratic McCall's behavior had been, if he was truly owed money, he deserved to be paid. Business is business. But to really understand how things reached this boiling point, with McCall breaking down on camera and Brown firing back without a drop of compassion, we've got to rewind. Back to when this wasn't beef. When it was brotherhood. When they were two hungry young artists just trying to get on. When family ties turned into open warfare. March 9, 2016. That was the day Kevin McCall decided he'd had enough of staying quiet while everyone else ate. Tired of keeping his frustration bottled up, he jumped on Twitter and sent the tweet that reignited everything. "At Chris Brown, we need to sit down and handle this business. I tried the adult route. I feel like my kindness keeps getting mistaken for weakness." That tweet was more than a vent. It was a declaration. A line drawn in plain sight for the whole world to watch. McCall wasn't chasing headlines. He was demanding to be heard, calling for accountability over what he believed were years of unpaid royalties and broken deals. The kind of industry politics that can crush even the most talented artists. But if McCall thought Chris would meet him halfway or keep the discussion private, he was about to be hit with a rude awakening. The very next day, March 10, 2016, Chris Brown took to Instagram with a scorched earth post that left no room for misinterpretation. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't diplomatic. It was raw, personal, and loud. Brown called McCall a bottom feeder and followed it with a chilling threat that had everyone's timelines buzzing. "Keep __. With me and you won't be able to walk, let alone sing again." Let that sink in. This wasn't just industry tension anymore. This was real hostility, the kind that makes everybody watching hold their breath. And coming from Chris Brown, a man known for brilliance on stage but also infamous for violent outbursts and public controversies, that threat carried serious weight. McCall, never one to fold, tried at first to downplay it. On Snapchat he posted, "I'm Chris Brown's #1 fan." A mix of sarcasm, pride, and pain all tangled together. Maybe it was his way of coping. Or maybe he really was torn. After all, this was someone who once looked up to Chris as a mentor and collaborator, who helped craft some of his biggest early hits, now being warned to stay in his lane by the same man he once protected. But things didn't cool off. They kept spiraling. Throughout 2016, McCall swung between demanding to be released from his contract and praising Chris's artistry in interviews. It became a bizarre cycle. Resentment mixed with nostalgia, loyalty clashing with betrayal. The kind of messy, toxic back and forth everyone's seen before, where love and hate get so tangled up you can't tell which one's driving the other anymore. By June 2016, things had gone from bad to straight toxic. McCall dropped a diss track called Baruch, a jab at Chris's ex, Karoech Tran, and the streets immediately caught wind. Later on, McCall admitted he made the record with one goal in mind, to get under Chris's skin. It was pure pettiness, no disguises. Calculated disrespect. It proved just how far they'd fallen, From brothers in music to rivals looking to cut deep. Then came December 11th, 2017, when McCall took it even further and crossed a line that had everyone in the culture watching in disbelief. He posted an Instagram video daring Chris Brown to a one-on-one fight, calling him a __ for bringing guns to a fistfight. He was challenging Chris's image head-on, his toughness, his street credibility, his whole persona. Basically calling him soft. And then came the move that symbolized the total collapse of their bond. McCall grabbed his platinum plaque for Juices, the song that put both of them on the map, and smashed it to pieces on camera. That song had once represented unity, brotherhood, and success. Now it was just shattered glass on the floor. Juices to my past, he captioned the video. A cruel twist on the very song title that had made them both household names. It was poetic, bitter, and final. Chris's reply? Just 2 emojis. Neutral face with tears of joy. No words, no paragraphs, just silence disguised as mockery. That cold, minimal reaction probably cut McCall deeper than any diss track or long post ever could. In hip-hop, sometimes the biggest insult isn't what you say, it's acting like the other person doesn't even exist. And that's exactly what Chris did. That moment marked the true end of any hope for reconciliation. But McCall didn't stop there. On January 6, 2018, he took things to an unforgivable level, posting a string of tweets so while they left even his supporters stunned. He wrote, "Chris Brown and his seed will be in a casket if I get shot. Stop playing with rumors or I can't promise CB will make it to 29. I've kept him alive 7 years now in LA. No exaggeration, McCall had just crossed the one line you never cross. He wasn't just threatening Chris anymore, he brought Chris's daughter, Royalty, into it. She was 3 years old at the time, a baby who had nothing to do with their beef. Referring to her as his seed, McCall implied that both father and child would end up in a casket if anything happened to him. That wasn't just disrespect, it was unthinkable. The backlash was swift and brutal. Fans, blogs, and artists alike lit him up online. The internet united for once, condemning the move from every direction. One viral comment summed up the universal reaction perfectly: "You can hate Chris Brown all you want, but you never threaten a man's kid. Ever." Even people who'd been sympathetic to McCall's story, who believe he'd been robbed by the industry, turned on him instantly. Because there are lines you simply don't cross. Not in hip-hop, not in the streets, not anywhere. Threatening a child is one of them. McCall tried to walk it back, saying people misunderstood his words, that he'd been quoting the Bible, eye for an eye, and that he loved Chris and Royalty, claiming he'd kill for them, not kill them. But by then, the damage was irreversible. Nobody was buying it. That explanation didn't convince a soul. The damage was permanent. Whatever empathy McCall had earned, whatever valid points he'd made about unpaid royalties or shady contracts, none of it mattered anymore. Those tweets erased it all. The second he brought a child into it, he handed Chris Brown the moral upper hand and gave him every reason to never speak to McCall again. That bridge wasn't just burned, it was gone for good. Then, in 2019, McCall doubled down on the chaos. He went on another social media tirade, this time saying he hoped Chris Brown's fans would take their own lives. It was another jaw-dropping moment that left even his supporters shaking their heads. Another example of pain turning poisonous, of a man consumed by his own bitterness. Every outburst pushed him further from redemption. Meanwhile, Chris stayed quiet through most of it, moving different, staying focused on his music, letting time do the talking. He didn't need to respond or defend himself. McCall's downward spiral was playing out in public all on its own. Then, in 2020, an old clip resurfaced showing Chris addressing the situation in a slick, indirect way that still hit like a punch. "If he wrote all those songs he say he wrote," Chris said with a smirk, "then why he ain't writing no more?" Brutal, simple, and cuttingly effective. The truth behind it stung. While Chris Brown's career kept soaring, multi-platinum albums, sold-out world tours, Grammy wins, and chart-topping singles, McCall's momentum had completely evaporated. His 2017 project Man of God barely made a dent. It came and went without anyone noticing. By all measures, his net worth, which should have been in the millions given his early credits, had dropped to nearly nothing. The contrast couldn't have been more painful. One man flying higher than ever, the other falling apart in slow motion. But this story doesn't stop there. Not even close. Because while McCall's life was unraveling, haunted by mental health struggles, broken relationships, and substance abuse, the world kept moving forward. To understand how things reached this tragic point, we've got to rewind all the way back to where it all began. The rise and collapse of a brotherhood. To see the full picture, you have to go back to the very start. Back to 2009, when a young Kevin McCall from Watts, Los Angeles, made a bold, life-changing move that would put his name in the mix. Picture it, McCall, fresh out of college, a former football player chasing NFL dreams, find himself at a music industry event, hungry and unproven. That's where he spots Chris Brown, just 20 years old, still reeling from the fallout of the 2009 Rihanna incident that had left his career in ruins and his reputation in flames. McCall saw opportunity in the chaos. Acting purely on instinct, he walked right up to Chris, pressed him against a wall, and started pitching his demo, refusing to take no for an answer. It was bold, reckless, classic hustler energy. But here's the wild part. It actually worked.
How did Deuces come together?
Deuces came together, he was doing, In My Zone did well. So he wanted to click up with Tyga. He was a fan of him. He felt like he had buzz popping at the time. He wanted to link up with him and do a joint album.
Chris Brown, impressed by McCall's raw energy and maybe recognizing a reflection of his own early hunger, invited him to pull up to the studio. What followed was something McCall would later describe as nothing short of magic, a stretch of time when he wasn't just part of the team, he was family. Real day one vibes. Brown officially signed him to CBE, Chris Brown Entertainment, under a joint venture with RCA Records, positioning McCall as his protege during one of the most critical chapters of Brown's career. This was the comeback era, the point where Chris had everything to prove, fighting to show the world he was bigger than his mistakes and still capable of greatness. Together, they cooked up pure heat. Their chemistry was effortless, two creative forces feeding off each other and making undeniable hits. Out of that synergy came Deuces, the 2010 smash featuring Tigger that peaked at No. 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a breakup anthem for a generation. But here's where things got complicated. That record, the song that marked Brown's return and changed both their lives, wasn't originally Chris's. It was Kevin McCall's song. His Baby. He'd written it straight from the heart about a breakup that left him gutted, raw, and vulnerable.
Your song?
It was my song. It was a separate package from the whole thing. It's like, here's your 10 songs. Oh, and guess what? Listen to this in the car. He was listening to it the whole week. And he's like, nah, I need that song. I need that song.
McCall decided to give it to Chris, but with one condition: he had to stay on the track. Chris agreed, brought Tigger in to add a new flavor, and the rest was history. The song became a certified hit, earning a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Sung Collaboration and pulling in major royalties. McCall later said he cleared 6 figures just from Deuces alone, life-changing money for a kid from Watts who, not long before, had been folding shirts at Abercrombie & Fitch and struggling to pay rent. It must have felt like the start of a dream come true, like all the grind and sacrifice had finally paid off. But Deuces was only the beginning. The duo kept stacking hits. McCall co-wrote and featured on Strip in 2011, which climbed to No. 37 on the Hot 100 and had every club going crazy. He also contributed to Look at Me Now, the monster record with Busta Rhymes and Lil Wayne that gave Brown his first No. 1 hit and dominated the airwaves. McCall's fingerprints were all over Brown's Fame album, the project that earned Chris his first Grammy and officially solidified his comeback. Beyond Brown, McCall was penning records for other artists too, like Kerry Hilson's One Night Stand, proving his pen game had range and establishing him as one of the most promising young songwriters in R&B.
1 second, it always felt better. If it was just me and Chris Brown, I don't think the record would be as good. I think it's the whole shebang. I think it's us three, and just, it was what was meant, and I never got jealous of either one of them. I always wanted the best for both of them, and I hope they...
For a moment in time, Kevin McCall was that guy. He was living every young artist's fantasy, shoulder to shoulder with one of the biggest names in music, creating songs that defined an era, shaping the sound of early 2010s R&B. The chemistry between him and Chris was more than professional. It was brotherly. Brown even called McCall his big bro in interviews, and people who'd been in those studio sessions said they felt like family cookouts, vibes, jokes, and creative energy flowing non-stop. It was the kind of bond that felt unbreakable. But beneath the success and the smiles, small cracks had started forming, hairline fractures that would soon split wide open. By 2013 to 2014, McCall was beginning to feel boxed in. He felt like he was losing creative control, trapped inside someone else's vision of who he was supposed to be. In a 2015 Vlad TV interview that quickly went viral, he explained that Chris wanted him to play into a grown, sexy thug image. But McCall wanted to carve his own lane, to be an artist with depth, soul, and freedom. That clash of identities would mark the beginning of the end.
I mean, Chris, he had this image of me. He wanted me to be this grown, sexy, had this thug appeal. And we kind of just didn't see eye to eye. I didn't see the vision he had at the same time. It could have just been a small conversation. But for whatever reason, he didn't see eye to eye with whatever he was trying to do with my career at the time.
The breaking point came over something that, at first glance, might seem small, almost petty, but in hindsight, it was a spark that lit a long fuse. In 2014, actress and singer Keke Palmer, yes, that Keke Palmer, the one from all the memes, reached out to McCall, saying she was a fan and wanted to collaborate. For Kevin, who was trying to step out of Chris Brown's shadow and prove he could stand on his own 2 feet, this was a dream opportunity. He jumped on it. The two shot a music video for Shorty Wop, sometimes stylized Shorty Warride, and McCall was hype. He saw it as the start of his solo wave, a clean, fresh lane where he could finally be recognized for his artistry artistry, not just as Chris Brown's writer. But Brown wasn't feeling it, not at all. According to McCall, Chris hit him directly, letting him know in no uncertain terms that the move was a mistake. From Brown's perspective, Keek's wholesome, family-friendly image didn't fit the edgier, street-smart brand he was trying to build for his label. But beneath the surface, this wasn't just about artistic direction, it was about control, about power.
He was upset about it, felt like it was a bad look. So he decided to call me on the phone and tell me how much of a bad look, but he didn't tell me in a professional way. So I had to, check him and let him know, don't ever talk to me like that again.
McCall alleges that during the call, Brown threatened to destroy his career and make sure the label never dealt with him again, essentially trying to blacklist him from the entire industry. For McCall, a man raised in the streets of Watts where respect was sacred and standing your ground was non-negotiable, that was a line Brown should have never crossed, a blatant violation of the code.
Not Drake, I'm not Frank Ocean. Like, you're gonna run into me.
That confrontation marked a turning point, the moment the brotherhood officially broke. McCall no longer felt like family, like an equal. He felt like an employee who had overstepped, a subordinate being put in check. And behind the scenes, things got even messier. McCall began to suspect that Brown's management team was quietly undermining him, telling people to freeze his projects, blocking collaborations, and closing doors before they even opened. Then came the money issues. Despite Juices racking up hundreds of millions of streams and still being played worldwide, McCall said he never saw the royalties he was owed. He claimed that the publishing deal he signed under Brown's company was predatory, something he didn't fully understand at the time, blinded by hunger and excitement. Without real legal counsel, he ended up locked into terms that, in his view, robbed him of what he'd earned. The kind of deal that turns a dream come up into a slow-motion nightmare.
Were you being offered publishing deals and stuff like that during this time?
I did a publishing deal through Chris. I didn't understand any of that. So
Okay.
everything was through Chris. And that's why what I was trying to get to is once me and his relationship kind of got funny, he kind of, the business and stuff was all held up and messed up.
To make matters worse, his RCA deal, which had been brokered largely through Brown's influence, crumbled just as fast. McCall described the experience as grimy and chaotic. He said he was never officially listed as a signed artist on RCA's roster, that label funds were spent on producers he didn't need, and that promises of support kept vanishing into thin air. Classic industry politics. But what cut deepest wasn't the money, it was the feeling of being erased. McCall alleged that his credits were stripped from major records like Look at Me Now, songs he'd helped bring to life, effectively wiping his name from the history he helped build. Whether that was deliberate or the result of bad paperwork, we may never know. But to Kevin McCall, it felt personal. It felt like betrayal. The final act in a story that began with brotherhood and ended in heartbreak, a partnership that built hits, made millions, and then fell apart under the weight of pride, power, and pain.